Well, greetings everybody. I'm very thrilled to have Lynette Zang on my channel again for the second or third time. I can't quite remember, but she's always fun and she's always got lots of information for us, and she shared it with us, and I'm very happy for that. And it's good, and everything's looking particularly good from what we've been saying in the past. We've both been proven right and right again on our forecasts, as it were. But today I'm just going to tweak it a little bit with Lynette's permission, and that is to talk a little bit about what Middle America is thinking, because I know it's very difficult for us to find out here because mainstream legacy media don't tell us the truth. They don't, generally speak, in America any more than they do in Britain. So it'd be interesting to see what the average American family are thinking, how things are going, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to perhaps think a little bit outside the box on this occasion. So I'm going to hand over to Lynette. Can you give us a little bit of a background on, we're sort of over a year in, I think now, into the Trump administration, for example, which we watched with great interest, as we always do here, American elections, although quite why I don't know, but we do. I was fairly pro-Trump during the election time for one or two political reasons, fundamental political reasons, and that was the really firm line I thought he was taking on getting rid of forever wars, if you will, and bringing the boys back home. Instead of this sort of wars that seem to go on forever, which, of course, that's not a criticism of America alone. My country and MI6 and London are joined at the hip with Washington on this. And so we are equally to blame, although we are a relatively small player in the geopolitical scene, but we tend, for some reason, to punch above our weight, usually in the wrong place for the wrong reasons and throwing our punches at the wrong people. So that's one of the problems. So tell us what you think, because like here, we just had an election a year ago as well. What we voted for, not me incidentally, but what the people sort of voted for isn't what we got. And we're a bit, we're a little bit worried that we have a democratic system which isn't the least bit democratic. And right. My view, and you endorsed this last time we spoke, and I've been saying for some time, is all you can do is look after yourself, your friends, and your family, and your locality, because nobody else is looking out for us. There's nobody else to turn to except ourselves. So, Lynette, there we are. That's the introduction. Now, take it away. Give us all your thoughts.
Well, for one thing, I would agree with you 100 bazillion% about being self-sufficient and independent, because that's the only guarantee that we have, that we show up and do the work. And to your point, there is nobody that's looking out for you the way you would be looking out for yourself. So we have to do that with food, water, energy security, barterability, wealth preservation, which for me is gold and silver, community, which is what we're doing right now, and shelter. So I don't think in that regard we are any different across the pond than you are. But President Trump has been in office since January, and there have been an awful lot of changes awful quickly. So I would say that the way that the middle American is viewing it is inflation continues to rage. No matter how they tweak those numbers, the cost of food, the cost of living is really exploding. And it's creating a lot of problem for middle America. And a lot of that is how rapid and off-putting all of the change, tariffs on, tariffs off, this rule on, that rule off, mass firings all over the place. I do agree that the government is way too fat. And you were talking about perpetual wars. And I believe it was Ron Paul who said it is no coincidence that the era of perpetual central banking and the era of perpetual wars coordinate with each other. Because there used to be about a 50 to 54 year period between wars. And that, as I did a study on this a while ago, and what I noticed is once we installed the Federal Reserve in power in 1913, the time between wars got smaller and smaller and smaller until 1989. And since 1989, we have been in a perpetual war, which justifies inflation. And it is always something that goes hand in hand with a currency regime shift. And I don't think this time is any different. And I think everybody can look out there. There are some people that know more than I do about cyberspace that say we've already been in World War III. We just can't see it. It's the visible wars with the bombings and the people dying, which is horrendous. That's what we, the public, wherever you are in the world, that's what you see. I personally think that, financial war and cyber war could be a lot more effective, but it's just not as visible. And we have to understand that all of the chaos that we are seeing all around the world, the starvation, right? Food becomes the biggest issue for people during these transitions. And I think we are seeing that in really a massive amount with world hunger, even no matter where you are in the world, even in the US, growing really almost exponentially. So even though, politicians, their job is to get elected and stay in office. My concern is that with all of the rapid cutting and the teeter-tottering that President Trump has been doing, there is something that is significantly broken that I don't even know that we've seen it yet, right? I know that. You can't just go in and cut a system willy-nilly without any negative impact. So I don't think we've felt it yet, because they always they meaning government, central banks, like distance between policy and as it's introduced to the public. And I think that people have gotten more used to on again, off again, all of this volatility. And I think that generally speaking, people are hopeful. They're operating under a lot of hopium, which really doesn't mean anything other than when what is broken becomes apparent, you will see shock in the public. And we've already instituted the next phase of this monetary transition with the recent stablecoin bill. There's so much going on, Godfrey. Oh my goodness. It's kind of hard to, you could just go on and on and on about everything that's happening. But yeah, the shift is in. People don't realize it. That's the way they do it. They get, they get compliance. They get participation from the public, and when they have a certain level of acceptance, then they can make the transition. And the stablecoin bill that was just passed here in the US recently, that's about creating a new market for dollars and a new market for treasuries, because the old market has turned their back on us. But I know people do not realize that the shift into the new system is done. It's done. That doesn't mean that it's over.
We got the same kind of we've got exactly the same situation here, Lynette. We got the same situation here. Our figures are bad. Our debt to GDP ratios are just as bad. A lot of it is off balance sheet, of course, as it is in your country.
Yep.
I also, and of course, the thing is, especially with America, with the United States, it means that nobody's going to buy American debt, because why would you? When we see, and we saw this, of course, in Britain, we saw this round about the term of the Versailles Treaty in 1919. It was the twilight of the empire, as it were, because of the Great War of 1914-18. And that was a very stupid war to get ourselves involved in, as all wars are. And that was the demise. And it was the demise of the last reserve currency, which was the British pound. And that finished, a few decades as it was bound to be, because it was in decline then. It seems to me that the dollar is in decline too. How could it not be? Because why would you buy a 4% bill, which is degrading at more than 4%, therefore guaranteed to lose money? And of course, there is no other fiat currency. There's no other paper currency which is any better. You can't run somewhere else on the planet to find a better currency. So we know that paper money is doomed. So we know that it has to be gold, which brings me to my next question, because it's got a 5,000-year pedigree. Now, here's the thing, and it's the same, it's less in my country, I think. It seems that the last figures I've seen only 4.5% of investor money is held in gold in specie in your country, and I think it's 0.2% in mine. Now, what I don't understand, tell me your side of the pond. It seems to me, and it would be, wouldn't it, because we're both gold bugs, if you will, because we do our homework, and there is no other game in town. If you want to preserve your wealth, not an investment, if you want to preserve your wealth, it's got to be gold. How can the figures be so small? How can, I know we can blame mainstream media for not informing people. Why is it that gold is not taking off? It should be, every family surely should be, your country, my country, should be buying gold coins and putting them in the tea caddy, shouldn't they? Or are we missing something?
Oh, 100%. But you also have to understand that a rising gold price is an indication of a failing currency, fiat currency. And so a lot of what we're looking at is the suppression of the visible price by Wall Street, which I don't know why anybody trusts them, because their job is to lie and lie and lie some more. But also think about the cryptocurrencies. I happen to have a visible representation, because of course they are just formulas of, this one happens to be Bitcoin, this one is Ethereum, and this one is XRP. Now, I'd like you to notice what color they are. First of all, they look an awful lot like, I don't know, ta-da, here, right? The gold. And what do? They say Bitcoin is digital gold. It is not. But when did that come out? It came out in January of 2009. Quantitative easing came out in March of 2009. In 1996, the NSA, which is a government agency, did a white paper on how to make a mint. It's available to anybody. Pull it up, read it, and what you will discover is, hey, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe with all my heart and soul, and having studied currencies and currency life cycles and how governments make this transition since 1987, I started studying this. They know how to do this. How much more money, fiat money, this junk, would have flowed into physical gold had Bitcoin not been born and gotten the image of gold? It's perception management, which is a formalized program here in the US. Not that governments and central banks haven't been using it for centuries. They have. But it was President Reagan that brought from your country, Rupert Murdoch, over to formalize perception management. So why don't more people own gold? Because this is touted like it's gold, but it's not. It's just a Trojan horse. And, you know, I've been doing this. Let me show you something which I personally find extraordinarily interesting and extraordinarily telling. Just bear with me here for 1 second. This is the one I want. Okay. So this is an example of how governments change things and what's happening right now. Because we started with this $20 gold coin, which is roughly an ounce of gold. But oh, so inconvenient to carry it. It's so heavy. So here, use this gold certificate. You see that little piece of gold here? You could walk into the bank with this, walk out with this. And they're both $20. So people got used to thinking of this just like this. But at the same time, they allowed this $20 Federal Reserve note to be in circulation at the same purchasing power value since 1913 to 1933. 20 years to use all three of these in circulation at the same stated purchasing power value. So when they took the gold away from the public, which took their power away, because if you didn't like what they were doing, you'd walk in with this and walk out with this, and this requires fiscal responsibility. So governments had to get rid of this, and so did central banks. So when they took these two pieces away, well, people were already used to using this for 20 years at the same level of purchasing power. So people thought nothing had changed, when in reality, we volunteered our wealth by giving this up, because this was not convertible into this anymore, right? So today, then we went to this system. How inconvenient to carry your cash and have to count it out and blah, blah, blah. This is so much more convenient than this, because you'd have to carry wads of this, but you can carry it all on this. And so we started in the 50s to get rid of cash. So not a lot of cash is used in transactions anymore. But they wanted you to think that this was the same as this, which of course it's not, because this is debt. This is debt. This is savings. So when you're looking at these cryptocurrencies, it is not an accident that they are depicted as gold, silver, or platinum, because they want people to believe that these are all the same. And I do conventions, cryptocurrencies conventions. I've done XRP 2 years in a row. And, you know, you get a lot of insight into it. And I'm not saying that this is not the future of the monetary system, but this goes back kind of to your first question, because in this transition, I believe so firmly that we now have the opportunity to get sound money redeemable, must be redeemable, or it doesn't mean anything. But to get redeemable gold, sound money back in the system again. And it has to be redeemable because that's the only way the public actually has power. The vote means nothing. Doesn't mean anything where you are. It doesn't mean anything where I am. And it doesn't matter who's in office. But President Trump has been known to accept gold in payment for leases and different things. So he is more of an advocate. Of course, he's a huge advocate and pushing through the cryptocurrency laws. And there are reasons for that. However, I do believe that this is our best option, and we have to do this on a global basis. We have to do it. It's kind of like from a top down, from a top up, and I'm sorry, from a bottom up and a top down. So we have to get and help the public become aware of even what sound money is, which I've come up with just a really simple explanation because it hasn't been in use in the currencies for so long. People don't even know what that means, sound money. But this is money. Gold and silver is real money that is above all central bankers and all governments. And it is simply because both of these commodity monies are used in every single sector of the global economy. So they have the broadest base of functionality and the broadest base of demand. That's what puts them above governments and central banks. And they cannot be inflated away, even as they manipulate the visible price that you see. Even in these manipulated spot markets where they can create, particularly in the US, as much fictitious gold and silver that does not nor ever will exist but has an impact on the spot market, it still maintains your ability to purchase the same goods and services over time with silver and expanded with gold. So, and I say that because the Bureau of Labor Statistics here that tracks food prices and, inflation and things like that. Do I trust their numbers? Of course I don't. However, they're consistent. I can get this price on the same goods and services going back to 1913 and all along. And so doing that, I discovered that the cost of food on the same basket of foodstuffs had gone up about 2,500%. Spot silver had gone up over 3,000%, and spot gold had gone up over 13,000%. Even in these manipulated markets. But the other thing is, at some point, Godfrey, when enough of the public have lost confidence in the system, and I believe that we are super close to that, then what happens is they need to pull a component of gold back into the system again to regain that public confidence. Because this only has any value at all because the public agrees to work for it and use it as our tool of barter. But they're using this stuff to get us into a full surveillance economy, and we have to take our power back and say no. And the only way that we can do that is if we come together on a global basis and enough people buy gold and silver. Because to your point, few people actually own any. And that's dangerous. So that's the mission. I'm working in this country to get gold and silver legalized state by state. In fact, I'm going someplace this weekend to work with some politicians. Never in my life did I ever think I would be political, but if not me, who? And if not now, when? So, I sit on the board of the Citizens for Sound Money, and this is both a local organization, state by state, but it's also a global organization because we have to come together and say, no, we need to take our power back so that the playing field is actually leveled, right? Because they could devalue the currency.
Yeah, I just did an observation which I think you may or may not know about. When I was writing my book on the magic of banking a few years ago, I went back as far as I could, and I got back to the Sumerian period, and they had tally sticks, which I think is the closest you could possibly get now to cryptocurrency. Intrinsically worthless, but would you believe lasted for nearly 200 years. So well, you and I would go, how much longer can this ridiculous nonsense go on? Well, the answer is it can go on quite much longer than you might imagine. So And of course, when it comes to crypto, you've always got the bigger fool theory. So I still get quite extraordinary, having spent 45 years in the city of London managing money. I still get sort of chaps from the Midwest telling me that I don't understand it and that Bitcoin's the way forward. I don't understand it. Chaps, probably spend most of their time underneath a sort of 1958 Buick in Des Moines or somewhere, but I don't understand it. So you can, if it goes up and up and up, and you can always trade it off to somebody else. But what is interesting, of course, is that the Bank of International, all the main central banks are accumulating gold in the east and the south. Not us, not West, not Europe, not Western Europe, and North America. So we have this rather strange phenomenon that deep in their hearts, all these people that we don't trust, so not politicians, nobody, you can't trust a politician, because the difference between politicians and central bankers is central bankers are crooks, politicians are crooks, but politicians are also stupid.
Yes.
But central bankers aren't stupid. So they know how to manipulate you. Well, yeah, there are one.
I have PayPal and Christine Lagarde come out a couple of years ago saying, we don't understand inflation. Since it's their job to manage the rate and speed of inflation, if they really actually don't understand inflation, that's a little scary to me.
Well, Christine Lagarde, of course, should be in prison. She was found guilty of fraud, but of course, commissioners and central bankers can't go to prison. And politicians don't seem to go to prison either. Do you think? Give me a view. I think we discussed this last time we chatted, but it was interesting that when the gold went to America for safekeeping, when the Soviet Union was strong and the war wasn't that far distant to memory, and it went for safekeeping. Do you have a view on? I mean, for example, it took a long time for the Germans to get their gold reserves back from New York, and it seems to me, I'm not sure where the goal is, where at least, even if it's there physically, what is the position of all these things? Do you have a view? What's the general view over there with people who are in the know? Is it there? Is it not there?
Well, I don't know because I didn't get to go. But what I think happened is, there was all this hoopla about going to Fort Knox and making sure that the gold was there and all of this. And they really made a big deal of it. And then all of a sudden it went to dead silence. So if it's now at dead silence when they created all this hoopla around it, my bet would be that it's compromised, that perhaps the gold isn't there. And my concern actually was not whether or not the gold was physically there. It was more the ownership string of who actually legally owned it, right? But I think perhaps it is not only is it not there, but why did they go dead silent? I don't think that it's there. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong because I wasn't there. I didn't go in. And so it's kind of compounded. And I think we wait and see. But isn't it kind of weird that they were making such a big deal about it and now it's dead silent?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very, very fishy. Very fishy.
And I wanted, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you, because also at the beginning of this year in the US, most of our gold market are just contracts. It's not the physical metal itself. They're just trading contracts. But at the beginning of this year, it was almost like, I think it was a repatriation of sorts of the gold, and the Bank of England was supplying most of that physical gold and silver that was shipped over here to the US and then delivered out. And they they don't really have their own gold, the Bank of England. They house lots of other countries' gold. And how do we know which gold they sent over? And if it was delivered out, that means that somebody else is holding it, so it's not available on the market. And if they did send over other governments gold and those governments ask for that gold back, I mean, I mean, there you go. You have an explosion. Do you have any thoughts? I know that you're interviewing me, but I'm curious to your thoughts on that.
Well, certainly Australia are asking for their gold back. Oh, some of the old Commonwealth countries are asking for their gold back, which they thought was safe in the Bank of England. And of course, all the paper gold now is standing for delivery. And that's an interesting phenomenon because that's never been done, to my knowledge, before in any great event. People are now saying, no, don't give me the dollars, give me the gold. And of course, if you look at the small print of the contracts, they are obliged to deliver. And so this is the LBMA associated companies over here who are also dodgy, very dodgy people. And of course, you both know it's the same in your side of the pond as it is here. We know just crunching the numbers, and you might disagree on the exact numbers, but we know there's probably 400 bits of paper for representing every one bit of gold in specie. I know in my book I put 500 15 years ago, but nobody can exactly tell. But we know it's miles. It's huge in comparison with gold in specie. And of course, if the gold in specie isn't there or it's demanded, there has to be a crash. And I shared a panel 10 years ago with a Hungarian. He was a Hungarian academic professor. I couldn't even pronounce his name, even if I could remember it. But he said that gold must go to infinity at some stage, because why would you exchange? You might exchange it for silver if you thought the ratio was bad, or platinum, or some other precious metal. But there was no way you would exchange it for fiat currency because there would be simply no point. So no, it's very interesting. We just don't know. And here's another interesting thing from an English perspective, which you probably already know. We do not have any serious financial journalists in this country. We don't have any investigative journalists in the country. They're in the smaller channels. They've got their own channels. No, there are some good ones. We have two people, Alistair Heath and Liam Halligan. It's interesting that the United Kingdom, I can only give you two names, who even begin to understand the problems that are coming down the road. No, two out of the United Kingdom. And we've got supposed papers, the same with geopolitical military dynamics, the Daily Telegraph, the Times of London. They're just rags now. They're just tabloids. We don't take any notice of them. Nobody buys them. Nobody watches the BBC. Sky TV in England now has stopped they're stopping their news programs because nobody watches them. Nobody believes a word they say. And of course, what we really need, and it ties in with banking as well, of course, and that famous quote from Henry Ford, I think, which was 1926, if people understood how banking worked, nobody would ever put their money in a bank. I mean, so we are roundabout bang on 100 years ahead. But isn't it extraordinary that so the penny isn't dropped? With people who are otherwise quite intelligent people, we know them. They're in our social lives. There's there's surgeons, barristers, attorneys. You call them whatever you like. There's lots of that who don't even. Not only do they not understand it, they don't seem to want to understand it.
Right.
And in my experience over here is the artisan class is the cleverest. So your sparky, your electrician, your chippy or whatever you call them over there, your carpenters, people who do real jobs. You call them blue collar probably, but they actually do a real job. They understand life so much better than almost anybody else because they do a real job for a living. Have to get up in the morning, have to deal with commodities or wood or metal or something like that. They can see inflation firsthand, and so on and so forth. So you're dealing with a very much more intelligent genre, if you will. I'm sure it's the same in America. I can't believe it isn't different. I visited 35 states. There's another thing I've just run past you. 35 states, I think, I've popped up in my travels over the years. I've never met any American citizen who I meet or come to, who I know personally well, or even I meet in a bar or anywhere it is. I've never met any of them, they're family people, who want forever wars.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't watch any of this. It seems to me, it doesn't matter who you vote for, your side or our side, it doesn't change a thing. And we've got a new party over here now called the Reform Party, who banged the drum at the last election. They're doing very well at the moment. If you read the small print, they're no different at all. But they're talking a very good story.
I would agree with that 100%, which is why I stay economic, because it doesn't really matter who is in the White House. It matters how they debase the currency. And really, it's all about that confidence level. But I would also say that in, I think it was 2009, and this was really before the central banks got involved in the derivative markets, when we're talking about how much fictitious gold and silver has been created. And I can't tell you what it is now because they changed the formula. But what I can tell you is at that time, because I counted it myself, there were 64,000 ounces of derivative or digital gold that does not nor ever will exist to 1 ounce of gold.
Oh.
To the moon. I wish it was only 400 ounces, but 62,000 ounces would certainly suppress it from its true fundamental value. And it keeps, they're doing it to keep people away from the physical gold, because once you hold it in your possession, then you own it. It's invisible, it's decentralized, it's universal, and it holds your wealth, which is why all the central bankers are buying it at levels never before seen since they started tracking it. They're not doing it for any other reason other than to retain their freedom and to retain their power, which is exactly why I think people need to do it for themselves too and become their own central bank.
Exactly. That's a good note, I think, Lynette, to finish on. Be your own central bank. That's the takeaway from this, isn't it? Be your own central bank. And I think that's a very, very good tip.
That is so critical, but also to create community where you are. And to your earlier point, they don't want us, the public, to understand how this crap has enabled income and wealth inequality. So what you and I are asking people to do is to have a paradigm shift. And in order for them to do that, they have to admit that what they have believed their entire life is a lie. And that's very, very hard for people to do. And there's something else. When I went to Australia the last time, we brought a bunch of silver dollars there, and we were kind of running experiments. If you hand out a silver dollar and talk to people, they're not familiar with it, blah, blah, blah. And I would say that while we did that, we learned an awful lot, and what we then have subsequently done. Because if you're asking people to buy gold and silver that don't realize that gold and silver is sound money and was in our monetary system, in 1965, they took the silver out of our money. Then if they've never held it, they don't know about it, they can't, there's no way for them to have a paradigm shift. So we came up with something which I think is frankly brilliant. It's going to take a minute to catch momentum, but we created, and I'll send you one, or I should even bring it to you. That'd be better. With what we call a quarter card, because this is the quarter from prior 1964 and earlier, which is all silver. Well, it's 90% silver. This is the new quarter, and I know it's teeny, but they look almost identical, right? So again, they allowed these to run side by side until these were pulled from collectors or whatever off the system, and we were left with nothing but base metal. So on this quarter card, we have a silver quarter and we have a new quarter. And when you look at them side by side, and the way that people can tell is if this is the silver quarter, it's just that line on the edge is all silver. This has some copper at least a copper color in there. And so you can tell the difference between the two, but we are handing them out. And I mean, they cost us money. It's not an inexpensive thing, but how can we ask somebody to do something if they're completely unaware of it? And this definitely does. Well, the goal with it is to get people talking and to get people sharing that so that they realize that sound money was once in our system. And I don't know where these are right now because it'll be guided by spot. But on the day that we bought these, we had to pay $5.87 per 1 quarter. So, you know, we're working hard and doing all sorts of things on education, because if people don't know it, it's not a wonder that we have such a low percentage of people that are participating. And our goal truly is to get sound money back in the global system again.
Well done. That sounds excellent to me. I was dig around and see what I can do with English money on that. Well, there'll be a flip side of that, and I'll work on that. Well, Lynette, look, thank you so much for coming on again. It's very good of you. Breakfast time over there in Arizona, isn't it?
It is. But I'm so happy that you invited me back again. And, you know, really, I mean, I love England. I went to school there, as I told you before, and I'm ready to come back. I need to do an event.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm working with some people. I won't go into it now because we haven't formulated it, but I've got some very good people in the city of London, very young people who I'm working with, and they're great fun as well. They're fun people as well. Young, early 30s, that's young for me. And so that's good. So we'll put something together, and we'll have some fun as we do it as well. You know, it can't be all tears, can it?
No, it cannot be. No, because I have a lot of hope. What we're going through right now is a transition from one currency into the next currency. And really what gold and silver are a bridge to hold your purchasing power intact, to get from here to there. But between there are so many opportunities if you can hold your purchasing power intact. And if you have a sound money strategy, a foundation, you're owning gold, then you're going to be able to take advantage. Because what I really want people to understand is that wealth never disappears. It merely shifts location. The hype is that they can create wealth out of nothing, but they're creating it with debt. And it works great on the upside. It destroys everything on the downside. And we are already on the other side of this. So you need to protect yourself and be vigilant and wise. There will be opportunities, but before those opportunities can really emerge, there needs to be a major crash, a major financial crisis, so that the pieces and parts for the digital economy that here in the US they've just put into place with that stablecoin bill. We've got to come together in local community to create surety in food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community itself, and shelter come together. There's power in numbers, but globally, peaceful revolution. Just convert your debt-based, government promised currency that devalues by design with sound money that is above their ability to devalue completely because of the global markets. Not rocket science. One place. This is used in one place. This is used in one place. This is used in one place. This, every single place, every single sector of the global economy. This is your financial bazooka. and your opportunity positioning. You're not going to have it with this because they have to. This is the Ethereum, but the cryptocurrencies, I'm not saying they're going away, but I am saying all you can do is convert them into fiat. That is going away. And you can see it. Federal Reserve Education Department, FRED. Put in that search bar, purchasing power of the consumer dollar. Your pound, even though you don't publish that, looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay, take a look. There's virtually no purchasing power left, only because they tweak the numbers a little bit. There's 3 cents out of the original dollar. That's official. It's worse than that. And when the tariff inflation gets in place, when the inflation starts to rise at a rapid level again, I think that will be enough to push the public, the consumer, that confidence over the edge. And I mean, we've already started in hyperinflation, even though it's not noticeable yet. They already have the system in place enough that they can make a next crisis and have that transition. It's already in place. People don't realize it. That doesn't matter. It's in place. Get your sound money strategy in place. Become your central banker. Come together in community. Everybody brings what talents they have, what they have. There's safety in numbers locally and globally. If we can get 3%, just 3% of the global population to buy gold and silver, we have a shot at getting redeemable sound money back in the system again. That's what we fight for at Zang Enterprises. That's what we're fighting for our children, our grandchildren, for everybody. Otherwise, we're going to a full surveillance economy that is set up like a feudal system, where you just have a few people that own everything, and you got the rest of us that have to rent. This is not okay with me for my future, for my family and for their future and for the generations that aren't even born yet. That's the battle. This is the time. We got a real strong shot. I've never seen an opportunity so ripe to get sound money back in the system, but we have to come together. One person can't do it, and there is no politician that would volunteer it.
Well, plenty to think about there, Lynette. Plenty to think about, and thank you. I'll look forward to speaking to you again, and I do hope that perhaps it'll be face to face on my side of the pond. On my side of the pond. So super, lovely talking to you, and have a lovely day. Have a lovely week, and good luck to you in your endeavors on your side, and I shall continue them in mine.
Excellent. And you see, this is how we build community. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to our next time.
Thanks, Lynette. Toodaloo. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research-based, and I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.